Welcome to Micro Kickstarter 101. I'm Zack Applewhite. A little about me and what I'm here to talk about today and why I'm a little bit worth listening to. I am a professional marketer, spent 6 years in corporate marketing, recently quit my job and focusing full-time on my tabletop business and helping other people grow their businesses in nerdy industries. All right. I have a bachelor's in marketing, but on the side, I've also successfully launched and funded over 25 micro campaigns, raising over $10,000. I also leveraged the audiences that I built through those micro campaigns to launch bigger projects, raising over $20,000 from 3 larger Kickstarters. I've also done a good job of growing an audience on social media, helping leverage that audience a little bit over time. Why I'm here today is I want to talk about how many people have an idea and they think of Kickstarter. When they think of Kickstarter and apply it to their idea, they're usually thinking of $10,000 plus, hundreds of thousands of dollars in funding. Usually what that leads to is either the person gets dejected and says, well, I can't possibly raise $100,000, Kickstarter's not for me, or they try and they fail, and what they think is that means that the market told them that their project wasn't worth it. In actuality, they just didn't understand the strategies that are available to them. One of those strategies is what I'm here to talk about today, which is the micro Kickstarter strategy, which is how I helped my wife launch her book and launched 3 books now for her, raising over $20,000 between them, and she gets even more money after the Kickstarter selling at events. All right, and how I've continually grown an audience by doing micro Kickstarters so that I can build to bigger and bigger things. So what we're going to talk about today is what is a micro Kickstarter, how to run a successful campaign, some tips and tricks that I've gained over the years of doing Kickstarters, and then we'll have a Q&A. I'm going to run through this really quickly because the more time that you have to ask me questions for your specific idea, for your specific project, the better. So if I'm going quickly, that's okay. Also at the end of this, if you scan the QR code, you can sign up for an email list. I'm recording everything. You'll get the recording, you'll get the slides, and you don't have to sign up for my email list. It's completely optional. Hello, come on in. Sit anywhere. All right. So before we get started, let's talk about crowdfunding and Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform, meaning other people are helping fund your ideas. It is real people looking to support real people. All right. It is an all or nothing platform. So if you set a funding goal of $10,000, you raise $9,999, and you get to the end, you get $0. The people that backed you get charged $0, and it is considered a failure, even though you raised $9,999. So funding goals are very specific, and it's very important that you understand that it is all or nothing as a platform. It is for business, it is not for charity. There is no equity or investing. You cannot sell 10% of your company. This is not an angel investor platform. All right? And Kickstarter specifically says that they cannot guarantee projects or investigate creators on their ability to complete the project. Your backers are taking a risk on you. All right? They've never met you before. They have very little reason to trust you other than you've put in effort, and hopefully they know your identity. Kickstarter has every year gotten a little bit better at finding ways to hold backers accountable because there are bad actors out there. We appreciate that. We want that. All right? But that's something that you need to understand as a creator, is that your backers are taking a chance on you. They're not just buying off of a Shopify store. All right? So a little bit of Kickstarter lingo before we get started. A backer is the individual giving you money. All right? The pledge is the amount of money they give. They're pledging for a reward. All right? So let's say you're selling a book. All right? The backer will pledge for the paperback reward or the hardcover reward. Okay? The stretch goal is if you get to 100% funded, you don't want to stop making money. So you offer what are called stretch goals. So you say, hey, I'll write an extra short story if we raise another $100,000, $500,000. Okay? So that's a little bit of lingo before we get going. All right? And now I'm going to talk about what is a micro Kickstarter specific. All right? And again, so I'm going to reiterate because we've got some stragglers in here. All right? So the difference between a micro Kickstarter and a traditional Kickstarter is that you're probably, when you think of Kickstarter, thinking of campaigns that raise $10,000, $100,000 or more. There's an alternative strategy. Most people aren't capable of raising $10,000, $100,000 or more. Most people don't understand that those campaigns that do raise $100,000 spend 10% of their funding on advertising to get to the $100,000. They have a lot of seed money that many of us don't have lying around. A micro Kickstarter strategy is about using small campaigns to leverage your way up to big campaigns. I've run 25 of them successfully, raising over $10,000 between them collectively. I've also leveraged those audiences and those projects into launching my wife's author career. She's launched 3 books through it, raising over $20,000 through the 3 books. All right, and then makes more money than she raised. Basically, the Kickstarter just pays for the inventory that she then sells at events afterwards. All right, and it's continued to grow her author career. There's a little background that's happening. All right. So a micro Kickstarter is generally low and attainable. You're looking at a funding goal. I usually mess around at just $100. If you're looking to fund a book, you do not need $1,000, $10,000, $100,000. No price check. For the first 25 copies, you need $500 or less. And a lot of people trip over their ego on the way to the book, on the way to the thing that they want, thinking that they need to be big, when most people actually would be a lot happier if it was just done and out there, and you can build toward big because now you have a product and you have an audience to talk to. Okay? And there's also, I'm going to go back here, it's a piece of a larger strategy, and I've kind of said that already, but I'm going to repeat myself over and over again, because if you're like me, you're ADHD and you didn't hear it the first time. Okay? It is a brick by brick system to get you to what you're building, okay? You are not gonna be running micros forever, all right? The point is to go to something bigger, all right? So, here's the micro Kickstarter strategy. First, it allows you to test the market. I originally, before I launched my wife's books, I was doing tabletop role-playing stuff. I still am. And before that, I was writing poetry. I tested the poetry market. It sucked, all right? I launched 2 books in it, and it sucked. I didn't like it, they didn't like me that much, I left, I pivoted. But if I had gone full on into poetry, written a whole book, put my heart and soul into it, and launched into that, I would have found that out after a ton of work and time and effort, and I would have felt like a failure. I probably never would have pivoted. So when you go micro, when you scale down to something that's only $100, $500 max, you had to do more. You get to learn faster, all right? So you test the market. As you stack these up, right now I'm running a hyper micro series. I'm doing one shot of D&D Cozy Adventures every month with my collaborators. The fund goal is $50, and we're stacking people up. And I'm going to talk about how that actually makes you more money in the long run, all right? But we're growing audience with each project. We're carrying over the old audience, and we're adding new people. So it snowballs up. As you do this, you learn. I have a marketing degree. I learned more from running Kickstarters than I did getting my marketing degree, okay? You learn how to refine your product, your process, your marketing, all right? You learn from your mistakes. I printed my name wrong on one of my books. To a handful of people, I am Zack Applewhite, all right? Not Applewhite, all right? I would rather make these mistakes when it's only a $5 to $100 campaign than when it's my wife's 200 backer, $7,000 plus campaign, right? Okay. You keep laying the bricks of something bigger. I've said that. I'm going to keep saying that. And it becomes a cycle. With each project, you're going to test the market. You're going to learn from your mistakes. You're going to refine from the mistakes that you learned from. You'll continually grow your audience, build to your next project, and you keep going. All right? Here's why I love micro. All right, and here's why I recommend it to especially new creators. I know, it's great, isn't it? All right, here's why I recommend it to new creators, who, especially those who do not have any seed money, okay? I ran everything with no money to start, all right? It's less time. Running those major Kickstarters take a year or 2, all right, of building the product, of getting the audience together, of raising the money to spend ads. All right, the common number is 10% of what you want to raise is how much you need to spend in advertising. So when you look at those campaigns that raised $100,000, they spent 10 grand on average in advertising. I don't have that. If you have that, you can leave and you can go do that. All right, but for the rest of us, You're gonna save time, you're gonna save money, and it saves you a bit of social capital. If I put my heart and soul into that book of poetry, I told everyone about it, and I was trying to raise $5,000 because I got an ego about my funding goal, but I only needed $500, and I failed. Even if I raised $2,500, which is a success in my book, it's a failure to Kickstarter and to everyone who watched that happen, and it happened publicly. That sucks. It gets you dejected, and you're less likely to try again. When you're just trying to raise $100 or $500, you can talk about it casually. It's a side project. It's something fun. If by chance it fails, oh well. It was a side project. It's not your life's work, and you learn from it. You tested something. You learn from it. You try again. All right, until you find the market, the product, the niche, the ability that you needed to grow in to be better and succeed. All right. For the backers, it's also generally less financial risk for them. Remember, they don't know you. If you take their money and do nothing for them, they have almost no recourse. All right? So by doing a micro campaign, by selling something that is more affordable, and I'll get to that in a moment, you give them an easy entry to trust you. All right? It's also less emotional turmoil. 2 years to build something big and hope to God it funds after spending, let's say, 10 grand in advertising, that is a huge emotional turmoil that is taxing on the soul. Micro Kickstarters are usually built. Your first one might take a couple of months. I am now launching one every month with some collaborators of mine. All right, and those ones that I'm running now only last 7 days. Okay, it is much less harsh on your soul. It is better for your mental health while you get better at what you're doing. All right, and like I said, you'll make less future mistakes. I know how to spell my name now, and I know to check every time. All right. So real quick while I get a drink of water. For the people that showed up late, I'm talking fast. Don't worry, it's all recorded, and I'm trying to save time for the Q&A section at the end. At the end, I'll give you a QR code. If you give me your email, I will send you the recording and everything else. You are not automatically signed for my email list. All right, you opt into it. Okay, because I don't want you to hate me. All right, micro is more. Micro is more practical learning. I already talked about this. I learned more from Kickstarters than I did getting my degree. You learn about product viability. You test whether or not people are interested. I learned that poetry, not my jam. Okay, made sense. I was not qualified to write poetry at all. I was not qualified to sell it at any value. We also, when we were getting into the ttrpg side, tested crocheted dice bags with my wife. She made dice bags and she crocheted them, and they did very well. But what we learned was that she didn't want to be the world's best dice bag maker. All right, since 9 years old, she wanted to be an author. All right, we pivoted away from a profitable product line because we had the opportunity to learn and go into what we really wanted to build for. All right, you make the mistakes at a small scale. I'll tell you right now, another mistake we made was that the first book she launched, we had no stretch goals. We funded like that. They said, give us stretch goals. We said, okay. And so we included enamel pins, all right, with the cover's main character on it. It wrecked our shipping. We had previously gotten media rate and we're only being charged $3 per book in shipping. Because we included an enamel pin, we no longer qualify for media rate. We are now being charged $7 or more for shipping. That wrecked our margins. We made almost no profit because of that mistake. The good news is we didn't make that mistake again. All right? And we made money on the back end afterward. All right? Pricing, you learn what people respond to. All right? This is the most annoying part of selling anything for me, is pricing. And when you're doing micro Kickstarters, you get to test the market. Come on in, sit anywhere. You also learn marketing. With each repetition, you learn how to engage and grow your audience, getting better and better at how you communicate your product. How does this audience engage with this product differently than the previous audience? Because I can tell you right now, the poetry audience, way more self-involved than a TTRPG audience. Turns out poetry is a pretty self-intrinsic, egotistical medium, all right? I was able to find in the marketing that the TTRPG side and the book side were way more receptive to my products, all right? And fulfillment, doing things at a micro scale. We're only doing 200 books for my wife's first big launch. That helps us understand what happens if she gets 2,000 books, okay? For her first book, we only sold 25 or so. That helped us understand, okay, how much could we do this? All right, for that first major book launch, we did hand packaging, paper wrapping with twine and a wax seal for all 200 copies. And we learned that our maximum is 200 copies because we were ready to throw the wax sealer out the window. All right, so in our next campaign, we limited that as an add-on. If you cared about it, you could pay us $3 and only 200 of you can have that. All right, it helps. It's more practical learning and fulfillment. All right, it also gives you more audience to engage. I already talked about this. With each Kickstarter, you take your old audience. We're very good about bringing them over and saying, hey, try our new thing. You liked us before. You already gave us money. Give us more. Okay? Testing, product viability. Kind of already touched on this, so we're going to skip ahead and save time. Market interest. Are they responding to your product? I'm finding out in the Cozy department right now what people are responding to in Cozy D&D. Okay? What they're responding to is drinking. All right? What they're not as responsive to is beekeeping. Surprise! But I wanted to test it anyways, because I love bees. All right? Process sustainability. I just talked about this. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right? How well can you do it now? 10x it, 100x it. All right? We cannot fulfill more than probably 500 books out of my home. If we ever go above 500 books in a single Kickstarter, we are either going to have to batch out fulfillment or hire a partner. And we know that now. We're not going to be insane enough to try and fulfill 500 books out of our house because we've been able to experiment at a lower scale. All right? You're building a consumer pipeline. Too many people create the thing, launch the thing, before they have anyone who cares about the thing. All right? Micro Kickstarters allow you to slowly build up that audience. And you can tell them about your next project, you share your website, you convert them to your email list. Let's talk about this, okay? Because what this is a proper consumer funnel. After a Kickstarter is over, you have what's called Kickstarter updates, all right? Every backer who backed your Kickstarter gets in their email a Kickstarter update. This is usually used during the Kickstarter to say, hey, we have 13 days left of funding, we've unlocked these stretch goals, here's what's going on behind the scenes, okay? It also allows us to directly reach every single backer in their email inbox and say, here's the next project, here's the preview page. Oh, by the way, connect with us on social media, connect with us on email, because we've already learned some billionaire can come over to your platform and screw everything up. All right, I have 19,000 followers on TikTok. If I post to TikTok, does all 19,000 followers see my video? Of course not. Like 300 do. And if it performs well enough, it unlocks to 1,000. And if it performs well enough, it unlocks to 3,000, and so on and so on. Email goes to everybody. All right? So when you update your Kickstarter, Google doesn't batch it out and see if they interact with the email. Okay? It goes directly to them. And you have a way better conversion rate when you're doing it this way than when you're just shouting on social media, which you should also do, and I'm good at it, but I like this better. Okay? Revenue. Let's talk about the add-ons. So, fun thing. When we were doing the TTRPG Kickstarters, we're selling PDFs for $10. We'll get into why that in a moment. All right? But, so we fulfill the first one. When we launch the second one, all the people from the first one have an opportunity to back the new one, and many of them do. All right? So they're only spending $10 with us again. But we also get brand new people. And some of them are now spending $20 with us because they're getting the new one plus the old one. We found after doing about 5 or 6 of these that the baskets, the average pledge amount had gone from about $10 to about $40. All right? Because we were getting people who would maybe back us for one, make sure that we fulfill on our promises, and then when we launched another one, they came back and bought another 4. Okay? Or we have people who have never interacted with us before, but we have built a reputation off the micro Kickstarters. We have successfully launched, funded, and fulfilled over and over and over again. So they feel comfortable giving us sometimes $50+ for completely digital materials that we did not have to create any more of. They already exist. It took no extra labor. That is how, as I talked about before, As you stack on micro Kickstarters, you also increase your revenue over time, all right? Brand, reputation, knowledge, and skills. Let's talk about brand and reputation first, okay? Over and over again, you're staying on people's top of mind, all right? Over and over again. Instead of doing what other people do, where they only talk to their consumers 2 years or so, hey, we launched a new project, you're able to do it yearly, hopefully, okay? I'm able to do it monthly, all right? And it's going to build up to bigger projects. I'm building a brand that is cozy, fun, and that you can trust, all right? And I'm doing that with repetition, all right? I'm also, as I've said many times, I'm building knowledge and skills. Still, Kickstarter is releasing new features. I am still building knowledge and skills 25 Kickstarters in, okay? Because Kickstarter keeps changing, consumers are changing, tariffs suck, and I'm gonna get to that, all right? So the more you do it, the more you learn. But how? This sounds complicated. It's not. It is, but it's not. As confusing as that is. So here's my recommendation for how you can approach building out a micro Kickstarter. All right. First, I want you to think about the process, which is how are you going to produce what you're going to produce? All right. I prefer and I suggest that you launch with a finished product. All right. Again, you're micro, you're trying to gain people's trust. Nothing you're trying to create should be so labor intensive that you couldn't do it all ahead of time. You're also going to unlock stretch goals along the way. You want to save your capacity to make those stretch goals happen and to promote and fulfill your Kickstarter, all right? Not building the thing that you're telling people you have ready to go, all right? This is why we opted for all digital products, all right? We have them fully ready to go minus stretch goals as soon as we launch. And oftentimes, we have the first 2 stretch goals ready to go. So that when we fulfill, like let's say we have a $100 funding goal, we reach that $100, our first stretch goal is $150, it was an extra map. We have that map ready to go because we want to show our backers that map as soon as possible so that we show them the fruits of them backing us, all right? Because that helps spur them on to the next stretch goal and the next stretch goal, all right? So as you're thinking of what you're going to produce, think of usually break something down into smaller pieces, find the core element of it, and then start stacking new things on top of it as stretch goals. All right? So what physical product, this is real quick, what physical products we have done, like crochet dice bags and books. Books are extremely cheap to ship, thanks to medium weight shipping. Dice bags made out of crocheted material are extremely light. All right, when you're thinking of your first micro Kickstarter, my suggestion, either go digital or paper, because you're going to be able to have really cheap shipping. I'll also get into why you should only ship in America right now, especially, but that's been basically my advice since COVID, all right? How are you going to deliver? This is what I just talked about. Stay in your country. Shipping internationally for your first Kickstarter, please God, just stay in America. Except for digital materials, because those can just be emailed to me, all right? The reason being is that shipping internationally is insanely costly. It's hard to kind of fuss out how much you're gonna charge someone in the UK versus Puerto Rico, all right? Things get lost and damaged in international like crazy. We know, we've done it with our books. We've stopped shipping our most expensive books internationally because of how often they get damaged, all right? For your first Kickstarter, save yourself the headache. Learn how to run a Kickstarter successfully before you learn how to do international shipping. Also, tariffs are a thing. They suck. I like to avoid them, okay? The don't be afraid to go the extra mile is that hand wrap things if you're gonna ship things, all right? Make it special. We did that for the first one. Now it costs extra, okay? But it was a great add-on for that first campaign for all of our backers to have that special interaction. All right, digital books or paper, already talked about that. Go niche, go simple, all right? For my first campaign, for my first ever Kickstarter, it was $1 poems. I made like 26 bucks, okay? I eventually sold a book of poetry off of it, all right? For my cozy campaigns, I'm cozy D&D one-shots. That is super niche, but I can easily branch out into horror D&D one-shots, into cozy D&D campaigns. I can go bigger. You can always go bigger. The point is to start small, test it out, and see where you should go bigger, all right, rather than just guessing. While you're at it, you'll also make money and followers. The way that I kind of like to put this is a minimum viable product for your minimum viable audience, all right? So let's talk about how to structure your rewards, all right? The way that I usually like to structure rewards, if I'm doing anything more than just like a one PDF, which you can do for my cozy ones, it's one PDF, one reward, not complicated. It's also pay what you want, all right? I like to do easy, a standard or core, and then a fancy pants. For the books, it's the easy is the ebook, all right? $10 for the ebook for the book. The core is the paperback, all right? It's like $15, all right? The fancy pants is over $50 in person, $45 on the Kickstarter. It's got gold foiling, it's hardcover, it's got this cushy material, it's got a ribbon, it's signed with love and care, and comes with that wax sealing and brown paper, all right? So if you're doing something bigger than just a quick PDF, don't try and go, especially for your first Kickstarter, beyond this, all right? That's my recommendation, take it with a grain of salt, okay? Start with the cheap version, your core version, and then the bigger thing for the people that really love what you're doing or really want to support you, okay? When you're talking about your rewards, be clear and simple. Tell them exactly what they're getting. Save the fluff for the Kickstarter page itself, all right? Because you don't want to confuse your backers. You want them, this is where they're pledging their money for your thing. You do not want them to be questioning anything at this point. You want them to know exactly what they're getting for exactly what amount of money. Right? Time to early bird. Let's talk about that real quick. What an early bird is I'm selling a PDF for $10. I want to reward the people who know who I am and are showing up early, who are backing me day one. So I'll make my $10 product $8. I'll make my $15 product $12. All right? For my reoccurring backers, this is a, hey, I love you, I appreciate you, here's a better deal. For people who have never seen me before, all right, they get an opportunity to back me at a lower rate. They're incentivized to back me now rather than click save this for later and never come back. You time them between 24 and 48 hours. We usually do 24. All right, you can say, I only want this to be alive day one. Day one, $8. Every other day after that, it's 10. All right, it's an excellent opportunity to get people excited about your product. All right, I prefer not to charge shipping. All right, because in my experience as a backer, I hate it's $13 plus $5 shipping. I would rather just pay $18 and get to hear free shipping. All right, and that's what we like to do. If you're going to ship something physical, if you can, just include it in price. I've seen comic books that are like, it's $15 for the comic, $17 to ship. Ow! All right, just make it 30 bucks. All right, and then I'll feel like I'm getting something quality. Okay, I also, again, I've said this several times because it's important, because I care about you. Just ship in your own country to start. All right, learn how to do international shipping when we don't have tariffs. All right, and when it's less of a headache. All right, how to figure out your cost. This is to help you figure out your price. The number one thing people get wrapped up on is they forget that they have to pack and ship what they produce. All right, they price out, and maybe you're building a card game. I'll be able to get this many decks of cards for this much money. Great. And they forget that it costs money to ship those. They forget that they need to get a prototype, they need to weigh it, they need to go through whatever shipping fulfillment process they're going through to figure out how much on average is this to send it to the other side of America. Okay, we're in Ohio. If you're going to check shipping prices, check New York, California, and Texas. All right, average that out. And Florida while you're at it, just to be safe. Okay, and assume it's going to get damaged if it goes to Florida. All right, once you have all those costs, all right, you're not accounting for your own time. I also want to impart upon you this wisdom. People who create the major Kickstarters are also not paying themselves. Many of those major Kickstarters lose money. Those $10,000, $100,000 Kickstarters where 10% of what they funded was all advertising budget. Another 10% of that goes to Kickstarter, so there's 20% of their 100% out the window. And another 10% probably went to partners who helped them plan the ads. So 30% of what they raised is out the door. They haven't even made the product. Okay? I guarantee you they're not getting paid for their time. All right? They're paying everyone else before they can pay themselves because they have a product to ship. And what they're doing is they're making money on the post, selling at events like this one. Okay? With a micro Kickstarter, you actually can make money from the start. My wife's book that raised $7,000, we bought the cover art for over $1,000. I won't give you the exact price because I want to protect the artist's integrity. It was over $1,000 for the funding goal. We were college students with a kid. We didn't have money. We raised that money off of D&D products that were completely digital and were profitable day one. All right? So don't account for your time. Review the market when you're looking at pricing. See what other people are charging. We settled somewhere in the middle. You do not want to be cheap, by the way. You want to be at least 2 levels above cheap. Why not cheap? Unless you're just trying to do an audience grab, okay? So we do $1 Kickstarters sometimes because we want to reward our fans. We want to say, hey, here's a great deal. Go grab it for $1, okay? And if someone's never interacted with us before, it's an easy on-ramp. And we get them to go in, some of them hit back for those $50, let's take everything, all right? But I'm not going to do that all the time. All right, because I don't want a frugal shopper. I want someone who's comfortable spending their money with me over time. So I'm only going to do it as an audience grab every now and then so that I can leverage them to something bigger. You don't want to be priced as cheap because people will assume your stuff sucks. There's a reason that if we have a choice, we don't do all our shopping at the dollar store. All right, we assume their stuff sucks a little bit. All right, sometimes we have to deal with that. Life happens. All right, but if we have a choice, most of us will choose not to. You don't want to be the thing that people go to when they don't have money, all right? Because then you will also not have money. You want them to feel comfortable spending money, all right? So price yourself, maybe not the highest tier, but 2 steps above cheap, all right? Oh, look, I already said that, low but not cheap. Moving on. Pricing always sucks. I'm a professional marketer. I've done this as a job. It never gets easier. It will always suck. You will always question your personal value as a human being. It doesn't get better, okay? But know that everyone else is dealing with that too, all right? It's gonna continue to suck, which means that you can take your ego out of it and just try and learn as you go, all right? Your goal on your pricing should be to break even plus a little bit so that you can spend money on better art, on better equipment, on better promotion. All right? Most people on Kickstarter aren't looking for great deals, they're looking for great ideas. This is something I say to support that idea of why you are better than cheap, why you should charge more than cheap. I sold poems for $1, okay? I was a pizza driver. I was not qualified to sell poems for any amount of money. I was writing haikus in my car as I delivered pizza because my radio was broken and I was bored, okay? And I still made money and people bought books from me, God help me, all right? So they're looking for good ideas and apparently poems from a pizza guy was a decent enough idea to back. Price low but not cheap, I already said that, let's skip that. Stretch goals, 2 ready to launch, reiterating what I've already said before. So stretch goals, for those of you who missed it, once you're 100% funded, you want to make more money, and you want them to have cooler stuff. You probably have broken your ideas down to something bare minimum. I might have wanted to write a book of poetry, but I'm going to write one poem at a time for $1. I might have wanted to launch a board game, but that's expensive. I've narrowed it down to a 50-card game. All right? So you probably already have a lot of ideas of how you can make your product better. That's what the stretch goals are for. Try to spend labor, all right, not money on these as much as possible, all right? You want 3 to 5 of them planned ahead of time. If you blow through those, let yourself blow through those, come up with new ideas and be thoughtful. Don't do what I did, include a bunch of enamel pins and completely undercut your profit margin, all right? You want to clearly list these on your profile. I'll show you where I prefer to do that, all right, so that they all understand it. You want them to be simple and attainable, and this is what I was talking about before. More product or more quality. Don't try and do both at the same time. All right? By more product, I mean making the product more. So let's say for ttrpg, we are launching a one-shot, an extra map, an extra NPC, an extra stat block. All right? If we're trying to make it more quality, we'll say, you know what? We have enough money. We feel good about this. Let's launch a paper version. All right? We've increased the quality, but the product has been the same. All right? Oh, we're going to make that paperback. It's going to be leather bound. Okay? That's higher quality, but the product has stayed the same. Don't try and do both, because that's really expensive, and you'll overexert yourself, and you won't make money. All right? Try to spend more labor. It doesn't cost me any more money to make an extra map, to make an extra stat block, to make an extra character, an NPC. Okay? The more labor you spend, the more money from those stretch goals you get to keep for yourself so that you can fund future endeavors. All right? Levels of frequency depends on your funding rate. So we have a $100 funding goal. If you are doing that, probably just every $50. All right? Until you get to 250-ish. All right? Now, you might blow through that 250 day one. That's why you cut it off at 250. You can unlock bonus stretch goals. All right? But if you raise $1,000 day one, all right, you could have, if you did $50 increments, you'd be screwed. So you stop, and then you say, okay, the next one's at 500. The next one's at 2,000. You layer that out. You want the first ones to be super attainable, all right? And then a few more that are a slight stretch, and then stop and read the room, okay? Don't pay for ads at all for your first time, all right? It's just not worth it. You haven't made any money yet, all right? And if you are not having success getting your message out there organically, chances are you're gonna be just as bad if you pay for it. Because you're probably getting in front of a few eyeballs and they're still saying no. Paying to be in front of more eyeballs won't help. They're already saying no. You need to refine your messaging. You need to refine how you're reaching people, all right? And then later on, once you're good at that, try paying for ads, all right? So that the ads can actually make money for you and you won't have to operate at a loss. Also, ads are better if you have the bigger products like the book, because if you're only making $10 on a PDF, well then you can spend $9.99 on acquisition, and that's tops, okay? Build your social media following ahead of time. I have a big presentation on content marketing. I've done a lot of content marketing, like I said. I've gotten a few thousand YouTube followers, TikTok followers, Facebook followers, Twitter, and so on. And what I can tell you is that I did not do all of that at the same time. I did it one or two platforms at a time. And what I see a lot of creators make a mistake on is that they try and be everywhere all at once, all the time, and then they burn out. And burnout is your number one killer of creative projects, okay? Pick two that you're good at, that you understand. If you're not good at TikTok, that's not the two. Pick two you're good at, and then two you're interested in. I was good at Facebook and Twitter. I was interested in TikTok. So I prioritized my Twitter and my Facebook. They helped me with my first few campaigns. And then I slowly got better at TikTok. It took me literally like 1,000 videos. No, I did not dance a step. This body wasn't made for that, okay? I mostly read my own tweets, all right? That got me my first 3,000 followers on TikTok, okay? That's a whole other presentation. The point is, don't overexert yourself. You've got enough on your plate. Two, I'm a professional marketer, so I know that we say this a lot. You need to have optimized content for each platform that is specifically built for each platform. Different hashtag structures, different naming structures, different presentations. Screw all of that. You're not a media company, okay? That's what marketers say because we work at media companies, because we work at marketing agencies, and we want to do that for major clients. That doesn't apply to you. You're one person. Just post the same shit everywhere, all right? I right now post something on TikTok and I post it to YouTube Shorts. Copy, paste, done, all right? And it's working. Okay, when I grew my TikTok, I read my tweets. Copy, paste, done. It worked. Okay, did it go as far as it absolutely could have? Could I go 100x if I had the time and the people to do the most optimal thing? Of course. But don't hold yourself to the most optimal thing, because you'll get nothing done and you'll burn out on the way. Do what you can. It will work over time as you learn how to do it well. All right, I am proof of that. Again, I'm not that interesting. I've just been doing it long enough. All right, plug everywhere. You have nothing to lose. Another thing that I run into people is that they say, well, I post something, what if no one sees it? I feel like a failure. Here's the great thing about it, no one saw that. Okay? If no one sees it, no one saw it, you failed in front of nobody. The worst case scenario is nothing happens. Okay? The best case scenario, anything happens. All right? So just shut up and post it. All right? You're going to want to funnel them to your pre-launch page. When you first get your Kickstarter up, by the way, you submit it to Kickstarter for approval. They say yes or no. Usually they'll say yes, as long as you're not like trying to sell tiger cubs or something. Okay? They'll say, yeah, that sounds good, and you'll get a preview page after you build out your Kickstarter page. People follow you there, and then on launch day, they get a notification. So you can promote your Kickstarter before it launches, and you definitely want to do that. Give yourself at least a month, maximum 2 for your first Kickstarter. Please don't kill yourself over this. Okay? It's not worth it. Okay? But if you can get 10, 20 people, that's awesome. All right? Rinse and repeat. We continue to reinvest in ourselves with the profits. We bought awesome art for my wife's book, and it performed awesomely. We bought better equipment for my wife's art for the ttrpg products. That made us more assured in the quality of our product, and it made our backers a little bit happier. All right? Over and over again, as you do this, reinvest and upgrade yourself. All right? Send surveys after they've had time to consume the product. There are 2 things you're going to do with that survey. So you send an initial Kickstarter backer survey, that is to deliver their product. Do not ask them anything else than what you need to deliver the product. There are too many bad actors who, sign up for receiving their product and then get put on the email list from hell. Don't do that. That sucks. They'll hate you, and they can report you and get your account banned. Okay? The survey you're going to send to them after they've had time to consume your product, which means after they have it in their hand, let's say it's a book, we sent that out a month or 2 ago, it should be in their hand, they should have had it for 4 to 6 weeks. All right? We can ask them, how is the book? Have you had a chance to read it? What do you think of it? Are you likely to send it to a friend? This helps you understand how your consumers are engaging. The last question you'll ask is, do you want to sign up for my email list to know what I'm working on next? Because as we've seen again, a billionaire can buy social media or even Kickstarter and ruin it for everybody. So please, God, get people's emails. All right? Stay connected and don't disappear. You're also going to properly go over your social media. When they sign up for your email list, thank you for signing up for our email list. Here's what I'm working on next. Here's my social media. You can follow me there too. You're going to put out a little bit of content at a time to stay connected and top of mind so that they don't forget about you. All right? I don't think I have time to talk about the 80-20 split. I want to take a moment real quick. I am running out of time, so we're going to speed run this because the next people got to do stuff too. All right? Formatting your Kickstarter. Okay, don't talk about yourself first. Talk about the project, why it's important to the backer, not you. Okay? You'll do you over here. All right? Talk about what's included, list it clearly. Be very brief in this section, go into detail in the next section. Okay? You're slowly winding them up for your product. Then tell them all the stretch goals you want to build and how you're going to make that project even better as you continue to succeed. Then talk about you. All right? Now they've been sold on the project. They've been sold on the value to them. Now you can make it personal and put a bit of branding on there. And then Kickstarter makes you talk about risks and challenges. For a micro Kickstarter that's all digital, you can just say, it's all digital. I have it built out mostly already. The only risk is that if you guys unlock too many stretch goals, it'll take longer. And I've done what I can to mitigate that. Okay? Here's another visualization of that. All right? I'm running through this as fast as I can. I apologize. All right? Get your Kickstarter approved as fast as possible so you have more time to promote it. Do not ship internationally. I've said it 5 times. I hope you've heard it at least once. All right? If you have digital rewards, set them as digital rewards in the Kickstarter platform, or they'll ask for your backer's address. That's creepy. Don't do that. All right? Don't disappear after you fulfill the Kickstarter. Stay on the top of mind. Ask them questions. Tell them what you're working on next. All right? Don't prioritize tactics over strategy. I don't have time to talk about that. All right? And for most of you, don't worry about reoccurring sales. Most of you, most creators I run into don't even sell to a reoccurring problem. All right? Crochet dice bags aren't a reoccurring problem. Okay? Too many people try and say, I have a Patreon, I have a Ko-fi, I have everything, before they've even got something proper to sell, before they've even got an audience. And now they're worried about growing all these revenue streams that are making them $30 a month when they could be working about making a better project, making a better product, and growing their audience so that they can leverage that stuff later on. All right? Here are some tools. Don't have time to talk about them. We don't have time for Q&A, so if you want to talk to me, you can meet me in the back. In the meantime, scan the QR code, sign up for the email list. I will send you the recording, all right? And you can opt in to hear about what I'm working on in the future to help creators be better marketers. Thank you.